Hi class, this is Mrs. Lyons. Today we're going to talk about chemical reactions. We've talked about this in class, so a lot of this should be review. But for any of you, those of you who missed class or who need a little extra clarification, as we get started in our chemical reactions unit, there's some vocabulary that you need to be very familiar with. We're going to be talking a lot about chemical reactions. As you can see here, I have a chemical reaction. Sodium plus chlorine reacts to give us sodium chloride. In this reaction, we need to be able to identify each of the parts of the chemical equation. And to do that, we have names for each part. The part of the chemical equation on the left side of the arrow, no matter if it's one compound, one element, multiple compounds, these are called the reactants. And the reactants are the things, the starting materials for the chemical reaction. Okay, they're the things we start with. They're the things we put in. Okay, on the other side of the arrow, on the right side of the arrow, in this equation we have sodium chloride, we call this a product. The product is the end result of the chemical reaction. Okay, there's a lot of other stuff besides just the elements and compounds in this chemical equation. There's some numbers, there's some little abbreviations in parentheses. We need to know what all of that means. Okay, we've been counting atoms and we've been writing chemical formulas in our last unit. And when we write chemical formulas, a lot of times we use small numbers below the compound. Those are called subscripts. And as we get into balancing chemical equations, we're going to see that we're going to use numbers out in front of a chemical compound or element. This means there's two of whatever comes in front of it. Those numbers are called coefficients. It's just important that we use the right vocabulary and know the difference between coefficients and subscripts. In addition, you notice that there are some little parentheses and some letters following the elements or compounds in our equation. These refer to the states of matter, and three of them are pretty straightforward. We know some things are in the solid state, some things are in the liquid state, and some things are in the gaseous state. Okay, so we can abbreviate S for solid, L for liquid, G for gas. AQ is something we're not familiar with, and it means aqueous. Aqueous. O-U-S. Aqueous. And what aqueous means, it means that it's dissolved in water. Okay, so that means that right there it's telling us we have a mixture of some compound and it's dissolved up in water. And when that's the case, we say that it is aqueous. All right. An important concept for this unit as we go forward, something called the law of conservation of matter or law of conservation of mass. And what this means is that matter cannot be created or destroyed. That means when we write an equation for something, we have to keep count of the number of atoms on both sides of the chemical equation. Okay, so if we start out with one sodium atom, we have to end up with one sodium atom. If we start out with two chlorines, we have to end up with two chlorines. And the way that we do this is through balancing chemical equations. The last thing I want to talk to you about in this short video is, again, it goes to a little bit more vocabulary, and that is diatomic elements. We know that di is the prefix for two, atomic means atoms, so diatomic elements are elements that occur naturally as compounds of two atoms bonded together. There are 7 elements on the periodic table that when they occur in nature, they occur as two of those atoms bonded together. Hydrogen. When we see hydrogen, we see it as H2. Oxygen is O2. Bromine is Br2. Fluorine is F2. Iodine is I2. Nitrogen is N2. Chlorine is Cl2. When we find these in nature, they don't exist as single atoms. They exist as they're bonded together, two atoms together. Okay, and there's a trick to remember these 7 diatomic elements. If you line them up, they spell, and then you make a word out of it. It's Hoberfinkel, Hobrfincl, hydrogen, oxygen, bromine, fluorine, iodine, nitrogen, chlorine. So I talk about my friend Hoberfinkel, and that helps me remember the 7 diatomic elements.